the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, is announced his retirement. I think in upcoming spring, like March timeframe. And so, Evan, I just want to get your thoughts on this. Like, what does this mean for PlayStation? Was this a good retirement, bad retirement? Should PlayStation fans be worried, excited? Are they set up well with kind of some of the stuff he's been doing over the past few years? What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of PlayStation fans that are cheering for Ryan's his departure, and it seems like it's because he's this like very businessman, like that he doesn't really play video games. I mean, everybody, maybe not everybody,
He
but
was a
if you haven't
marketing
seen
guy,
Jim.
right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the picture of Jim Ryan holding a PlayStation controller, like that's kind of, I think, all you really need to see to know that like he's not a gamer, and like I think gamers just like don't like that. Like Phil Spencer is at least he sells the gamer, right? Like, and
Yeah.
you see he's got like a 990 gamer score on Vampire Survivors and stuff. Like he
Yeah.
plays.
He's
Plays
playing the
video
games,
games,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Right. Or somebody's playing him for him. I don't know, but
Could you imagine
but
that? You're the intern, like, your assignment today. You got to play Vampire Survivors.
right.
Oh, Titanfall 2 is back online. You need to play that. And
Yeah,
so
I need you to play these Game Pass games, make it look like I am playing, yeah. So, but at least, he puts on that, puts that on facade or whatever it is. But, yeah, there's no, Jim Ryan's kind of put his foot in his mouth a few times, over the years. And so I think there's a little bit of that, right? Like he doesn't relate to the gamers. Gamers don't relate to Jim Ryan. I mean, he's PlayStation's thriving right now, right? Like, and they have been under Jim Ryan. I mean, Sean Layden set things up, and I think maybe that is. I don't really know how to feel about it. There's things I don't like about PlayStation, but Jim Ryan started bringing their PlayStation games to PC, and I applaud that, right? Like, and he has. I mean, he's done great things, and there is a concern with the games as a service, like shift that he's had for PlayStation, right? And all these, we saw Jason Schreier for Bloomberg, put out, tweet or post or whatever that, or
an article, yeah.
an article on how a lot of these studios at PlayStation Studios are having an awkward shift and not really comfortable with the change to games of service. I mean, PlayStation's bread and butter has been these third-party cinematic single-player adventure games that are, boom, 20 to 40-hour story and done. Games of service is like, wait, that's years and years and years. Like it's complete change of pace in direction of like how you're developing a game and what you're doing. It's like the only thing that's familiar with these studios is the IP itself, right?
Yeah, that's a little disheartening, isn't it? Like, I know that they're doing so well, and it feels like they're trying to catch a wave that's going to be gone by the time
Yeah.
they catch it, right? Or it's just not applicable to everybody. It's not applicable to all their studios. This square peg round hole type of deal. When you're telling Naughty Dog, some of the most masterful storytellers ever with The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 and Uncharted, and you're saying, okay, now I need you to make games you need to do a multiplayer thing. You need to do games as a service. Get away from your bread and butter and do this, because that's what we're all doing now. And that's got to be a struggle, I think. And that could be to the detriment of the studios and ultimately to the players. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the mentality is that, yeah, well, if we do, a dozen of these, then and 11 of them fail, that one that doesn't is going to make up for all of it.
Dollar bills.
Yeah, it just sucks that's where we are, because it's just like usually those games that hit first off are like they're funded, all that money's coming from like whales. It's coming from the top 1% of the players. So most majority of players, right? As far as players by quantity, that's not the direction that they want to go. But when you look at it in the players by money spent, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have so many of these high spending players that are at the top, or 1% of these high spending players, right? If they spend $1,000, 1% of these players spend, $1,000 on these games, then it's funding it way more than, just paying that $60, $70, for the disc, for the base game, and not having that service model. Right.
Yeah.
And
And it makes it hard to vote
Uh,
for, with your wallet, right? Like I'm a big proponent of vote for your wallet, and I sometimes I do spend, sometimes I don't, but I think vote for your wallet's good. But when you put it like that, does voting with your wallet really matter if you already have the numbers on your side? People wise, the numbers are on your side, right? But the dollar wise, it doesn't matter
right.
if 1%, 2% of the player base are spending all the money anyway.
Yeah, you can only spend 100% less than $70, but you can spend infinitely more than $70,
Yeah,
right? So it's
yep,
like when,
great point.
uh, yeah. So, and it just, yeah, like I said, it sucks, and it's just like to see that when it's like you like said, you see that out there where it's like, oh well, speak with your wallet, and it's just like. I think gamers are right, and I think most gamers are, and maybe not. Like, but I would be curious to see that if if there's some kind of data model on that or whatever, just get some kind of information to like, see how many people are actually not funding this, but because it just takes such a small few to spend tons of money on it to make it successful. And then, players like things like, just player activity, right? If you have, millions of players playing it and not spending any money on it, and they're just like playing it because it's the thing and that's what people are playing, and then even out of those players, like say Fortnite, right? I don't know how many people spend any money on Fortnite, but it doesn't take too many people to get them V-Bucks and
Mm-hmm.
to get thousands of dollars in V-Bucks for it to be the killer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely concerning if you're a PlayStation fan because this is either going to be a huge hit or a huge miss. And it also depends on your play style, right? Like I like both games. Don't get me wrong, I played hundreds of hours of Destiny. I played a lot of Destiny 2 before I put it down and was done with the abuse that game gave out to its players. But I also like stuff like Uncharted and Horizon and stuff like that. So it just really depends on what's going to happen, what's coming down the pipe. And there was that rumor, I don't know if it was confirmed, but that basically they got Bungie, brought them in house, and they said, all right, look at every studio that we have, look at their projects, and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on it because you are the games as a service masters, right?
Right,
Like
right.
dollar for dollar, gameplay wise, like you guys have the formula that you've perfected. So what do you think of all these? And I think part of the rumor was that Naughty Dog's Last of Us thing got the thumbs down. Like, go back to the
Yeah,
drawing
the
board or burn it.
factions.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
could that have been a
Uh,
good game? Could it have been a good multiplayer game or a good
right.
multiplayer add-on? Maybe, but it's probably dead in
So
the water now.
right. Yeah. I mean, people liked the first Last of Us multiplayer, right? Like but it wasn't some, killer revenue maker, but it was like a cool online multiplayer mode. I never played it, but like, I know that it was pretty well received and people that did play it enjoyed it. And it's like, maybe this was just an, expansion on that or an evolution of that. And it's just like, but if Bungie's like, no, this is what makes this doesn't make the money. This doesn't have lasting, right? Like, it's not something that you can do for the next 7 years. People aren't gonna play this for 7 years. They'll play it for the next year, and then when Call of Duty comes out, they're just gonna jump back to that or whatever, and I think back to like the these studios being forced into this, right? Like something that's very uncomfortable for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many devs are working out there for like Naughty Dog? They're just like, dude, I just want to work on what like I came to Naughty Dog because I loved like the Uncharted, the Last of Us, right? I wanted to be a part of this like this story, like the this excellent writing, these incredible narratives, games, and now I'm just being forced to do this like. This like money grabbing, like trying to force feed like players playing together and engaging and making sure that they do stuff that I don't know, like it's like, and then you're like, all right, I'm doing this, and you kind of like finally get like, all right, this is how we're gonna do it. I got an idea, and then you just have somebody come, nope,
Yeah.
and you're like I don't even want to do this, and like and it's failing, and I'm just being told no, like no, like of course I'm being told this is bad. This is because I'm doing work I don't want to do, like, I mean, imagine going to work every day and just having to work on something you don't enjoy. And then then the people that are telling you that you have to do it, you're like, yeah, that's not good enough. You're like, well, of course it's not.
Yeah.
Of course it's not.
Yeah, it's like to use like a football or a sports analogy. It's like you're a running back and you go to be on the team, but the coach changes, and all of a sudden he's not running the ball anymore. He's running a spread offense and just throwing the ball all the time. And you're like, oh, okay. Guess
You're
I'm
not
doing
catching the
it.
ball well enough. It's like, well, it's because I take handoffs.
Yeah, I run the ball. Like you change the whole direction of what we're doing here. Like, yeah, we're still playing football. We're still making games. We're still the Eagles, the Browns, whoever's, but now we're doing it totally differently, right? So I don't know. And to give Jim Ryan credit, like you've got to give him credit for the good things that have happened under his purview as well as maybe the missteps, right? Like even on the screen now, you can see The Last of Us, God of War Ragnarok, Dreams, for
Yeah.
Horizon, Ratchet and Clank, bringing the games to the PC, as you said. Like there's a lot of good things that have happened at PlayStation, and they have an excellent console right now, I think. But there's also some missteps, and you think about the games as a service we talked about last week. We talked about the PS Plus subscription price increases with no added games. Like the value, whoa, I hit my mic there, sorry. The value is not in balance, I think, with those big 30, 30+% price increases. And then the PlayStation Portal handheld, that's kind of yet to be seen if that's going to be a smart decision or not. And then the PSVR, which is kind of struggling. Do you have any thoughts on any of those other things I just mentioned?
Yeah, it seems like they're just kind of seeing like, like, oh, this Switch worked, so let's do something like that. Oh,
Yeah.
like they're just trying to feel out like all these, I don't know. It doesn't feel like they're leading the charge so much as they're chasing trends. And I mean, really, PlayStation hasn't been a trend chaser, and as a platform holder, I feel like you can't be. You got to drive the industry, and and it feels like they're, I don't know, it just feels like they're just chasing trends. And
Yeah, it feels like they're playing it safe in a way, like covering all their bases. Like they got a
yeah,
great console. All right, let's cover all our bases. We have a subscription service. We have a handheld offering. We've got a VR offering. Like, okay, let's go to the next step here. Like, really show us what you're made of, and throw something incredible at us, like you have before.
right. And it's one thing to like, you got to play safe in some spaces, right? And then, but like and maybe if they come out with some stuff that's innovative, or something new, that's something that like sets them apart. You think of like Apple or Google, either one of them, right? Like Apple does a lot of things that they come 5 years late to the party, 3 years late to the party, or whatever, after Google's already implemented something new, and then they just like, oh, we do this too, and they try to make it look like they are the first people to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but like, they also innovate. They also bring things, right. They bring new things to the phone market or whatever, and then a couple of years later, Google follows trend, right? Like follows suit, and it's just like you have to have a little bit of that give and take with creating trends, driving forward the industry, and then also just like adopting what works from other from other platforms.
Right, that makes
And so
sense. I
so
heard.
hopefully
Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I had heard. I don't think this is a rumor. I think there was an interview. I didn't see the interview myself, but supposedly the PS Portal decision was made based off of player feedback. Like they sent out multiple surveys, and one of the things that kept coming up was like, how do you use your PlayStation, or how often, or when, or whatever. What things get in the way? And it was like my family using the TV, me being at other places in the house, like that type of things. And that's what they
Right.
made the decision based off, supposedly. So I don't know how I feel about that or how true that is. I feel like there's a little bit of trend chasing in the handheld as well, but I just thought that was an interesting thing that I hadn't heard before. I read it this week, earlier this
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
So,
It was either like a comment on that Schreier article, maybe in Reddit or something, or it was a
mhm.
part of that Reddit. Yeah, yeah. I think I remember seeing that too. Yeah. What do you think about that response? I mean, maybe it is right. Like, but like, how do you feel about the response of that? I think there are a few things, and it addressed one thing, which was like, oh, my family uses this TV, so I can't get the TV, and that's pretty much all that addresses, that the
Yeah,
portal addresses. And it is, to me, it seems like you probably could have addressed. I can't remember what the three things were, but it's just like you could have addressed more of those things in a better way.
yeah.
I mean, do you have any thoughts on like what how they could have responded differently, or how they responded, or if you think they responded the right way?
I don't know if they could have responded differently. I'm not in their shoes, and I don't have their internal marketing and stuff like that. But thinking about how well they responded, it's no coincidence that they're doing a handheld at the same time as other handhelds, right? They weren't gonna. I don't think they were gonna be the first company to come out and do this. With the
Right.
success of the Switch and the Steam Deck, that enabled them to take this risk, as it were, for them. And then you got the ROG Ally and other stuff too. So I think if they were gonna do this, they needed to go full hog on it, right? They needed to do more than what they're doing and make this thing really badass. And it just doesn't feel that way. So like, yeah, address this concern, but be Sony, be PlayStation, be proud of what you're doing, and
Commit,
go all
right?
in on
Commit.
this. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, dipping your toes in the water. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess they're going all in on the games as a service, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you want
Maybe
me
they
to play
should have.
that game anywhere, don't you? Freaking soup this thing
Yeah,
up.
right, right.
So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts on PlayStation before we jump over to Xbox?
Any thoughts on a successor or what direction they
Ooh.
go? Don Matrick, Phil Spencer, Sean Layden.
If I was a console war person and I was an Xbox fan, I would set Don Matrick over there to nosedive the whole thing.
Right.
Um,
You know, what's Reggie Fils-Aimé been up to? I don't. I was say, how nuts would that be? I think he's, I think he's out of that business, but that would.
It has to be someone internal, right? Like, it doesn't sound like they've been grooming or breeding someone to take over this role. They're like waiting to make this decision in a way. They're gonna have an interim CEO. At least that's the announcement they made.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that like they would either like this is going to be our new CEO or you know, if they had somebody, right? But yeah, I don't know. Because they are doing this interim CEO and stuff, it's like maybe they look outside, you know, like maybe they don't have somebody that's ready, that they're ready to groom from a turtle. Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
Hey, thanks for watching, and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this and new episodes of the Remote Play Gaming Podcast every other Wednesday. You can join the conversation by leaving a comment below, or check out our Discord linked in the description. Farewell for now, and keep gaming.